All right, boys, that's me, front and center, 25 years ago. And that's the 87 GT 5 speed that got it all started. In fact, I sold my beloved Monte Carlo SS that I built while I was in high school to buy that GT. And we'll get back to those cars and this picture at some point, I promise. Moving on, 2 years later, I financed this 36,000 mile 93 GT Vert AOD car, converted it to a 5 speed almost immediately. And again, we'll get back to this one at some point too. I rimmed it up, lowered it, exhaust, short throw shifter, the usual stuff. I absolutely love this car. It was one of the longest running Fox bodies I've had. Tons of stories about it. But roughly 8 years later, in 07, I bought this triple black 93 Vert. Again, an AOD car that I eventually converted to a 5-speed. I managed to put a set of SC wheels on it, as you'll see, and kind of got it halfway lowered before I ended up having to sell it because I decided I wanted to move to sunny Florida in 2012. And that's exactly what I did. However, shortly after arriving, I ended up getting married to that beautiful woman you see to the right of me. And about a year later, I ended up having this beautiful baby girl. So I became a dad. And a year after that, I ended up getting divorced and found myself in this rental home that I found for my daughter and I, as we do. And I began devising a plan to buy a home, which I did, and also a plan to buy a Fox body. However, this is 2018, 2019. I'm leveled by the prices. And I realize all the money I've saved to buy and build is just going to be able to buy. And so I did. I rented a U-Haul July 4th after finding this 76,000 mile LX AOD, all original aside from the exhaust and the SC wheels. Drove it 3 hours to Florida's west coast and towed it home. In a hurricane, unfortunately, which is another story for another day. However, in the year leading up to this, the house I bought had a garage that was absolutely, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And so I had to try to plan for the arrival of whatever Fox I was going to buy, and I began to do that. And so I spent months and months and months before I even knew what I was going to buy, but while I was looking at what was out there, trying to rehab this garage with my minimal skills because I'm not a carpenter. I ended up finding a flooring system, decided to nix the epoxy, and I went with this polypropylene flooring system I found, which is great, but definitely a bit weird to walk on at first. It's kind of loud, and it doesn't like jack stands. You should definitely put something underneath them. But hey, it looks cool, right? So I spent months finishing this garage, and I finally found the car, like I said, in July. It was July 4th weekend. People were buying these things sight unseen at this point, and I definitely don't have the kind of money to buy a car, a Fox body, anything sight unseen. And so I found the car, and within an hour, I'm offering the dude $100 to hold it, as if that's something. Needless to say, he says, just come on out, the car's yours if you'll agree to this price, blah, blah, blah. So I get out there, the car is what it is. We'll get into that story. Those are my RCs. You'll notice I'm quite an RC guy. I'm sure that'll come to light at some point. But yeah, the garage gets finished, and finally, in the middle of a hurricane, I pull this beautiful car into my garage, and I feel like, oh my God, everything is just, this is it. You can see the rain still on the car from the storm. After pulling it off the trailer and pulling it into the garage. I haven't driven one of these things since 2012 at this point. And I've been, at this point now, modifying this car for roughly 2 years, and I've documented all of it. And so after a lot of thought, I decided, you know what, I want to share this whole build because I think you'll find it somewhat unique. And so, yeah, welcome to the 5.0 show. Stay tuned as I release vlog-style videos on this channel of the last 2 years that I've spent wrenching on this beautiful car.